What would you do if your only son tried to take away every choice you had left while telling you it was for your own good? That question kept beating in my head as I sat in my old Chevy outside the children's hospital. Rain hammering the windshield so hard it blurred the world into streaks of gray. On my lap rested a dented metal box, filled with letters my late wife had written before the cancer took her. She wanted me to give them to our boy one day. When the time was right, I thought maybe tonight was that day. My daughter-in-law had texted me an hour earlier. Bring the insurance file. The doctors can't move forward without your signature. It had been nearly a year since I'd heard her voice, and longer since my son had looked me in the eye. Tonight was supposed to be a truce, a chance to come together for the sake of my grandson's failing heart. I killed the engine and stepped into the storm. The hospital doors whooshed open, spilling bright light across the wet pavement. Inside, families huddled with coffee cups and damp coats, waiting for news that could change everything. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. One short message in plain black letters. Do not sign anything tonight, no matter what they say. I froze in the lobby, my boots dripping onto the tile. Through the glass wall ahead, I saw my son waving at me, his smile stretched thin, his arm guiding me toward a desk where papers waited. My chest tightened. Another vibration. The same number again. Protect yourself. Ask no questions. Just don't sign. I slid the phone into my pocket. The metal box pressed tight against my ribs. For the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of Claire's absence like a living thing. I whispered to myself that I would not ignore the signs again. Not tonight. Not when everything could be lost in the stroke of a pen. The smell of antiseptic clung to the air the moment I stepped past the sliding doors. Every breath felt sharp, like the walls themselves were scrubbed raw. Machines beeped from somewhere down the hall. A child cried, and the sound cut through me like a blade. My son, Andrew, moved toward me with an energy that did not match his eyes. He hugged me quickly, then pulled back and placed his hand on my shoulder as if to steer me somewhere. I noticed the tremor in his fingers, the way his grip lingered too long. Dad, thank you for coming, he said softly, as if we were conspirators instead of family. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe the warmth in his voice. But his eyes darted past me to the desk, to the clipboard waiting there. His wife, Marissa, stood at the counter, papers stacked neatly in front of her. Her smile was too bright, too practiced, the kind that said she had rehearsed this moment. She waved me over, tapping the top sheet with a manicured nail. We just need your signature, she said. It's all routine. Routine. The words slid into me like ice. Claire used to say nothing about hospitals was routine. Every form meant something. And she had read them all when she was sick. My chest tightened as I remembered her bent over pages with a pencil in her hand. Circling words. I set the metal box on a nearby chair. My grandson, Eli, lay in a bed behind the glass wall. His little chest rose and fell beneath wires and tubes. His eyelids fluttered as if he were fighting to stay in this world. My heart twisted. I wanted to do anything to keep him alive. Anything. Another buzz from my pocket. The same unknown number. Don't sign. Not yet. Ask for a hospital social worker. My throat burned. I swallowed hard and asked, could I talk to someone from patient services before I sign? The words surprised even me. Andrew's smile cracked. Dad, please. This is for Eli. We don't have time for more delays. His voice shook at the edges, a mixture of fear and something I couldn't name. Marissa stepped closer, holding the clipboard toward me. Her perfume lingered too sweetly in the sterile air. It's just paperwork, she said, but her eyes flickered sideways, betraying a strain I caught in an instant. I forced myself to breathe evenly. The buzzing message still burned in my mind. I glanced again at Eli. So small, so fragile. Claire's voice echoed inside me. The way she always insisted I pay attention to details. The way she warned that trust was a gift too easily broken. My fingers brushed the pen Marissa offered. I let it hang there between us, then set it gently back on the counter. I'll sign after I talk to the hospital advocate, I said firmly. The silence that followed was heavy enough to drown in. Andrew looked away, jaw tight. Marissa's lips parted, but no words came. Behind the glass, Eli stirred, a faint sound escaping him. His tiny cry filled the space between us like a verdict neither of them could answer. The first time I taught Andrew to plane a board. He was 8, and the board was longer than his arms. We were in the shop behind our rental in Ballard. The cedar smell filled the room. Shavings curled and fell onto his sneakers. He kept glancing up to see if I was proud. I was. I told him that hands remember what the mind forgets, and that a promise was a piece of wood. You keep it straight or you live with the warp. Claire kept a kettle on the hot plate and music low on the radio. She slid between us with a smile and a band-aid when Andrew nicked his thumb. She never asked us to hurry. She liked the way work slowed time. Back then we did not own much. A circular saw, a second-hand jointer, a calendar with 3 jobs, and a blank stretch of hope. We ate beans some nights and celebrated every invoice with pie. After the funeral, the shop went quiet. I sold a portion to a younger carpenter who called me sir, even when I told him not to. I kept the hand tools and the workbench Claire had sanded smooth. I put the money into a small trust for Eli. It was the only thing that made sense. I wanted him to have something that could not be argued over. Marissa came by with forms that winter. She said a single-family account would make life easier. Bills in one place. Fewer passwords. She was not wrong about the mess of paper I kept in shoeboxes. But my name on certain accounts was a line I was not ready to erase. I thanked her and said no. I thought the refusal would pass like weather. It did not. It hardened into something we did not talk about. In the hospital waiting area, a young social worker appeared. Her badge read Sophia Nguyen. She introduced herself to all 3 of us. Not just to me, which mattered. She asked how we were holding up and whether anyone had explained the forms in plain language. I said I would appreciate that. Andrew sat down, rubbing his temples. Marissa stood at the counter, her body angled between me and the paperwork. Sophia reviewed each page with a pen. Insurance verification, consent to share medical information. Then she paused. She tapped a paragraph halfway down the 3rd sheet. This part, she said, allows a temporary financial agent to act broadly on the patient's behalf and on the guarantor's behalf. If checked, it can be narrowed. It can also wait until the morning. She looked up at me. Do you have someone who can advise you that is not connected to the hospital? Marissa cleared her throat. This is slowing everything down. The procedure needs a deposit tonight. We are losing time. Her voice trembled on the word time. I believed the fear. I also saw the urgency that did not belong to fear alone. Sophia nodded carefully. We can take a smaller deposit now and proceed with scheduling. We do not need this expanded clause signed tonight. I can note that the guarantor is requesting independent review. She handed me a copy. I read the paragraph again. The language was clean and polite. The power it granted was not. I told Sophia I needed a few minutes to think. She did not press. She said she would be nearby. Andrew reached for the pen, then let his hand fall. Dad, please. I squeezed his shoulder. We are going to take care of Eli, I said. We are also going to be careful. I picked up the tin box and the policy folder and told them I was going to the lobby for coffee. Marissa opened her mouth to object, then stopped. Andrew stared at the floor. I stepped into the corridor. The lights hummed. My phone sat heavy in my pocket. The coffee kiosk was closed. I stood there with an empty paper cup and thought about the day Andrew promised he would sand the table legs without cutting corners. Then did cut corners and hid the scratches with a stain. He was 12. I found the marks in the morning sun and called him back to the shop. I did not yell. I handed him sandpaper and stood with him until the stain surrendered. He cried a little and then he finished the job. I told him the same thing Claire told me when we were young. Work is. A cleaner pushed a cart past me and asked if I needed directions. I thanked him and said I was fine. I was not. I could feel the story in the papers waiting at the desk. A story that would move fast if I let it. I opened the copy Sophia had given me and read the clause once more. Temporary agent would have access to accounts related to care and related obligations. Related obligations was too broad. I called the number on the back of my bank card and asked to place a note on the account that no new authorization could be added without my voice in real time. The representative asked security questions Claire used to answer when we covered late bills at the kitchen table. I answered them slowly. The representative confirmed the note. She wished my family well. When I hung up, I realized my hands were shaking. Not from anger, from the knowledge that one choice at a counter could ripple through every room in my life. I took a breath. Then I walked back toward the glass wall where my grandson slept, and the people I loved waited with pens. Evelyn was the only neighbor who still knocked on my door after Claire died. She was 60, widowed, sharp with words but gentle with her hands. She had kept a spare key to water the ferns in my window when I was away. I trusted her the way you trust someone who has sat on your porch long enough to know the creak in each step. That night, as I left the hospital lobby to fetch the policy folder from my truck, her name lit my phone. Daniel, she said without preamble. Someone has been in your study. Her voice was steady, but I heard the effort behind it. I gripped the steering wheel, though I was still outside the hospital doors. What do you mean? In my study? 2 nights ago, she said. I thought I heard the mail slot rattle. When I checked later, your desk drawers were half open. Nothing gone that I could see. But the filing cabinet had smudges, like someone rushed through. I closed my eyes. Rain hammered the hood of the truck. My study was where I kept the tin box when it wasn't riding in the passenger seat. I imagined unknown hands rifling through Claire's letters, searching for numbers and policies. Did you see anyone? I asked. Footsteps on your back porch. Quick ones. Too heavy for a child. By the time I opened the curtain, they were gone. Evelyn paused. I think you should change the locks. I thanked her and promised to call the locksmith. When I set the phone down, the metal box seemed to hum with weight. I opened it with both hands. Inside were folded envelopes, the last of Claire's careful handwriting. Between 2 letters was one I had never noticed before. The envelope had no address. My name was scrawled on the front. My throat tightened as I slid the paper free. Daniel, if you are reading this, I never had the courage to say it while I was here. There is a policy in my name. It is not large, but it is meant only for Eli. No matter who asks. Keep it separate. Protect it even from family if you must. Promise me you will. The words blurred as my eyes filled. I pressed the page flat against the dashboard. Claire had trusted me to guard her last gift. And already someone was circling it. Headlights flashed behind me. A family hurried into the hospital with blankets over their shoulders. I wiped my face with my sleeve. The rain would hide the rest. I tucked the letter back into the box and locked it. My fingers shook as I slipped the key into my pocket. The night was colder now. Not just from weather, from the knowledge that someone had touched the private corners of my life, and that the box in my lap carried more than memories. It carried a promise. I started the engine but did not move. For a long moment I stared at the hospital's lit windows, each square holding people bargaining with fate. I thought of Eli upstairs, his chest rising beneath machines, waiting for a chance his mother and father were desperate to buy. I thought of the papers on that desk, and I thought of Claire, writing a letter she was too tired to seal. I whispered into the cab, "I promise." Then I pulled into the lot and parked under the floodlight, where no shadow could reach me. My phone buzzed again as I stepped from the truck into the rain. Same unknown number. Same spare words. "Do not sign. Hospital counsel is on the way. Ask for your own lawyer. Ask for everything in writing." I glanced toward the ambulance bay. A woman with dark hair stood under the awning, pretending to study a vending machine. When my eyes met hers, she looked away. The message lit my screen again. Trust no one paid by the hospital. You need someone who works for you. I slid the phone into my pocket and walked back inside. The lobby lights were harsh. The floor smelled of bleach and coffee. Andrew stood when he saw me. Marissa was already speaking with a woman in a navy suit who carried a leather folio and a trained smile. "Good evening, sir," the woman said. "I'm counsel for patient relations. I'm here to help your family move things forward so Eli can be scheduled without delay." "Before we begin," I said, "I want everything we discuss printed and handed to me, and a copy for the hospital advocate." "Of course," she said. Marissa pushed the clipboard toward me. "We're all on the same side," she said softly. "This part lets us handle payments while Eli is in care. Nothing more." Andrew nodded without meeting my eyes. Counsel produced a shorter form. "If the broader authorization worries you, this is a limited one," she said. "It allows a temporary agent to arrange deposits and reimbursements tied to the procedure. It lets your son and his wife act if you step away from your phone." I read each line. The signature block referenced related obligations. I heard Claire in my head. Circle the ordinary words. Ask what hides under them. "What does related obligations cover?" I asked. "Ancillary costs," she said. "Transportation, pharmacy, maybe equipment at home." "Can it be narrowed?" I said. "Yes. We can strike that phrase and list items one by one." Marissa's hand tightened on the clipboard. Andrew exhaled through his nose. "Dad, this is getting ridiculous," he said. His voice shook. "Eli needs a date on the calendar. We can't keep playing lawyer at the counter." "We will get the date," I said. "We will also get the language right." The printer hummed. Counsel crossed out the vague phrase and typed a list. Deposit for procedure. Pharmacy copay. No access to unrelated accounts. No authority beyond this admission. She slid the new draft across. "Better," I said. "Add one more note. All billing contacts must include me directly. No changes without my voice on a verified call." She glanced at both of them, then nodded. Aloud, the elevator chimed. The dark-haired woman from the awning walked past with a tray of coffee. Her badge swung. She did not look at me. Sophia returned. She asked if we needed anything. I asked her to initial the changes as witness. She did so. Counsel printed a second set. Marissa stared at the floor. Andrew broke first. He slapped the pen onto the counter. "This is absurd," he said. "Dad, you act like we are trying to rob you. We are trying to get our son into surgery. Do you even hear yourself?" Heads turned. I wanted to pull him into my arms. I wanted to beg him to trust me. I did neither. "We are doing both," I said. "We are moving forward and keeping our lines clean." Counsel lifted her hands. "We need a deposit tonight. Not the broader authority. The limited draft will do. Once signed, scheduling can proceed." Marissa's eyes were wet. Please, just sign the limited one, she said. We can adjust the rest later. I read the page again. Sophia's initials in the margin steadied me. I signed the lines that paid for the morning. I left the rest blank. Counsel stamped the paper and handed me a receipt and 2 copies. When it was done, I felt no victory. Only a small space where breath could happen. Andrew rubbed his face with both hands. He said nothing. Marissa whispered, "Thank you." Sophia said the surgical coordinator would call within the hour. She asked if I wanted a chaplain or a quiet room. I said no. I wanted a chair with a clear view of the door. And my grandson. I carried the tin box to the window and sat. Rain moved down the glass. The dark-haired woman crossed the lobby again. She slowed near my chair and set a coffee on the table. "In case you need it," she said. Then she walked on. My phone buzzed once more. The unknown number sent 2 words. "Good move." I took a sip. It was strong and plain. I let the heat rest in my hands and waited for whatever came next. I texted back a single question. "Who are you?" The typing bubble appeared. Then vanished. A final line arrived. "Stay alert. You are being watched for weakness." I locked the phone and stared at the coffee until the steam thinned. I told myself I would find my own lawyer before dawn. Claire had a list of clinics in her email. I still knew the password. I would not walk into another morning without someone at my side who answered only to me. I stepped into the hallway where the signal was stronger and scrolled through the contacts on my phone. Claire's old folder of emails came to mind. She had once donated to a community legal aid clinic and saved their address in case our neighbors ever needed help. My fingers found the number. I dialed. A clear voice answered. "Community Legal Center. This is Priya. How can I help you tonight?" "My name is Daniel," I said. "My grandson is scheduled for heart surgery. The hospital is asking me to sign papers that transfer financial authority. I want someone who represents only me. Can you come?" There was no hesitation. "I can be there in 30 minutes. Do not sign anything until I arrive." I thanked her, gave her the hospital floor, and hung up. My hands shook. Relief and fear tangled together. The buzz of fluorescent lights pressed against my ears. I walked back to the waiting area. Andrew was pacing near the vending machine. Marissa sat with her arms crossed, eyes swollen from crying. When I returned, she looked at me as if I were the enemy. "We could lose our place in the surgical queue," she whispered. "You are gambling with Eli's life." I wanted to tell her that I had already gambled once in my life. When I ignored signs Claire showed me before her cancer worsened, and I would not do it again. Instead I said, "I am waiting for counsel who is not paid by this hospital. Then we will move forward." Andrew's mouth opened, then shut. He shook his head. "This isn't you, Dad. You're paranoid. It is me," I said softly. "It is me now." 30 minutes later, Priya Shah appeared. Young, dark hair pulled into a knot, carrying only a folder and a legal pad. She greeted us all, then asked if she could review the documents privately with me. We stepped into a consultation room. She spread the papers on the table, her pen moving quickly across margins. "This is not routine," she said after a few minutes. "The clause they asked you to sign would have allowed a broad transfer of power, including long-term access to accounts, in the wrong hands. This is dangerous." I told her about the text messages, about the unknown number warning me to wait. I told her about Evelyn's call and Claire's hidden letter. Priya listened without judgment, only underlining passages with a steady hand. "Here is my advice," she said. "We will draft a notice tonight that you are the sole guarantor. We will authorize payment directly from you. No intermediary. Tomorrow morning, I will file a protective measure with the court to block any transfer of guardianship or financial authority without review. Until then, Sign nothing more. I felt air fill my lungs for the first time all day. She handed me a sheet to sign, authorizing her to act as my counsel. Her fee was covered by a community fund. Claire had helped raise money for it years ago. I signed with a steady hand. When we returned to the waiting area, Marissa stood. "You called a lawyer for your own family." Her voice broke. "Do you know how insulting this is?" "It is not about insult," I said. "It is about protection." Andrew's fists clenched at his sides. "We are not thieves, Dad. We are trying to keep our son alive." Priya stepped between us. "No one is accusing anyone. But legal language is powerful. Tonight we slow down. Tomorrow we proceed safely." Marissa's eyes filled. She turned away, whispering, "He doesn't trust us. He never did." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I had trusted too easily in the past, with loans that were never repaid, with promises that dissolved under pressure. I had trusted until the cracks widened into silence. Andrew rubbed his eyes. He sat heavily in a chair. For the first time, I saw the weight on his shoulders, the hollow behind his eyes. I asked Priya to stay through the night. She agreed, opening her laptop on the corner table. The waiting room hummed with televisions. No one watched. I closed my eyes and remembered Claire's voice. "Guard the gift. Guard the child." Somewhere down the hall, Eli stirred. His monitor beeped. A nurse adjusted his blanket. I pressed my palm against the glass and whispered, "Hold on. Little one, we are almost there." Andrew asked if we could step out. He did not look at Marissa. He did not look at the papers. He only looked at the window, where the rain ran in crooked lines. We took the side door to a small balcony that faced the parking lot. The night smelled like wet brake dust and coffee. A red exit sign buzzed above us. He leaned on the rail and rubbed his palms together. "Dad, I need you to hear me without thinking about lawyers for a minute." I nodded. He tried to speak and stopped. He started again. "The last year has been a mess. I made choices I thought were smart. They were not. Tell me," I said. He stared at the black puddles below us. "My friend Liam started a company 2 years ago. Medical devices for home use. He needed an angel check to keep the trial alive. I signed as a silent partner. We thought a large hospital chain would buy our design. They did not. We missed milestones, and the bridge round collapsed. When the market tightened, we were the ones left holding the bag. I tried to fix it with a personal loan. Then I took another. I kept thinking next quarter would turn it around." "How much?" I asked. He told me a number that made my chest go hollow. He swallowed and kept going. "The house is remortgaged. The second note adjusts next spring. I can handle it if my salary stays steady." But then Eli got sick. I do not care about money next to him. I only care that he gets well. He looked at me finally. "This is why I pushed you. I was afraid we would lose our date if billing lagged. That is all. I swear to you, I am not trying to take what is yours." I let the words sit between us. The rain softened. "Why did you not tell me?" I asked. He laughed once without humor. "Because I can hear you already. You would say I did not sand the legs. I cut corners. You would be right. But I did not want to see that look on your face. The one from when I was 12 and thought you would not notice the stain." I remembered that morning. I remembered how small he looked holding the sandpaper, and how large his shame felt in the room. I had wanted to protect him then. I wanted to protect him now. "Marissa is scared," he said. "She sees the bills stack up and she panics. She believes the system punishes the slow. She thinks if we do not sign first, we will not be seen. She is wrong about the forms. Maybe. She is not wrong about the fear." I stepped closer and put my hand on the rail beside his. I kept my voice even. You should have told me before anyone knocked on my door to open my drawers. He flinched. I did not do that. He said fast. I swear. I would never walk into your house without asking. I looked at him for a long time. I believed him. Then who? I asked. He shook his head. I do not know. Maybe Liam. Maybe someone who thinks there is a quick fix in your files. When people get scared, they do stupid things. Eli needs us both clear. I said. He needs trust. He needs calm. I am not signing anything broad, but I will make sure the hospital has what it needs to do its work on time. How? He asked, wary and hopeful in the same breath. Tomorrow at first light I will go to my bank. I will get a certified check for the remaining deposit. I will hand it to the billing office myself. I will keep a stamped copy and a receipt. There will be no lag. There will be no excuse to slide in other papers under it. He let out a breath he had been holding. Thank you, he said. His voice dropped. I am sorry. I know I have not been easy to love since Mom died. I keep thinking I can outrun the parts of me you do not like. It never works. I looked at him and saw my own stubborn lines written on his face. I saw the boy who used to fall asleep in the shop with sawdust in his hair. I put a hand on his shoulder. I like you. I do not like your secrets. There is a difference. He nodded and blinked fast. What about Marissa? He asked. We will bring her in on the plan. We will keep her informed. But I will not pretend I did not see what I saw tonight. The pressure was wrong. The language was wrong. If she is angry, she can be angry with me, not with you. You need to be present for your son. He wiped his cheeks with the back of his hand as if it were rain. A nurse opened the door a crack and told us visiting hours for the floor were strict. We told her we would be quick. The door shut softly. The parking lot lights clicked brighter. I told Andrew I believed him about the house. I told him, fear can make decent people unrecognizable. I told him we would reset the clock in the morning. His shoulders lowered a fraction. We stood together and listened to the quiet for a while. The city hummed. I felt older than I had an hour earlier. And somehow steadier too. When we went back in, we paused at the glass. Eli slept with his tiny hand curled near his cheek. Andrew pressed his palm to the window. I did the same beside him. For a second our reflections overlapped on the glass and I could not tell where one of us ended and the other began. Then the moment passed, and the night grew colder again. I left the consultation room and headed for the elevators. The corridor was quiet. A shape moved at the edge of my vision, near the billing alcove. A gray jacket. A cap pulled low. I turned my head and the figure slipped behind a door marked staff only. The door clicked. I felt the old pulse in my neck wake up. I walked faster. The door had a keypad. Someone inside ignored the rule and held it for a second too long. I caught it with my palm and stepped through. Fluorescent lights buzzed. The carpet changed from speckled blue to gray. Cubicles stood dark. Printers slept. Somewhere a stapler snapped shut. Hello, I called. No answer. I heard footsteps up ahead. Not running, not strolling. The pace of someone who did not want to be seen and yet had business that could not wait. I turned the corner and reached a glass door with security etched at eye level. A man in a navy jacket looked up from a monitor. Sir, can I help you? He said. His badge read Doyle. I pointed back the way I had come. Someone just slipped in here. Gray jacket. Baseball cap. He froze, and then stood. He checked a tablet. We had a man ask directions for the cashier's office 5 minutes ago. He said. He was insistent. Wanted to know where guarantors pay after hours. Asked if the window took personal checks and whether names were called over the speaker. Did he say a name? I asked. No. Doyle said, but he described a man waiting in the lobby with a metal lunchbox. I stared at him. That is not a lunchbox. I said, It is mine. He raised an eyebrow. He typed something on his tablet. We can pull a still from the nearest camera, he said. It may take a minute. The printer under his desk woke up and fed a sheet. The photo was grainy but clear enough. The cap shadowed the eyes. The jawline had stubble. The jacket was plain. The left shoe had a white scuff at the toe. I had never seen him before. Doyle tilted the page toward me. If he comes back, I will let the floor know, he said. For now, stay in public areas. He glanced at the tin box in my hands. Keep that close. I thanked him and returned to the main corridor. The glass wall to pediatrics glowed ahead like a false dawn. My phone buzzed. Evelyn again. You asked me to check the house, she said. I stepped over just now. Your study window is damp on the inside sill. Not a spill. The kind of damp you get when a cold draft meets a warm room and someone opens the sash for a few minutes. She sent a photo. Water beaded under the latch. A faint crescent of mud marked the wood floor. My scalp prickled. Please leave the lights on and lock both doors, I said. Do not stay long. She promised she would not. She added one more thing. Your mailbox had been opened and closed. No new mail. The flap was damp. I ended the call and stood still until my hands stopped shaking. Then I called the number Officer Ruiz had given the neighborhood after a string of porch thefts. The dispatcher put me through to his line. He answered on the second ring. Ruiz, who is this? This is Daniel from Linden Street, I said. I think someone entered my house with a key. Nothing big missing. But my study was touched. I am at Children's. Can you swing by? I can be there in 10, he said. Do you have a spare key out? A neighbor did. She will meet you, I said. He told me to text the address. I did. He replied with a simple received. The elevator doors opened. The dark-haired woman from earlier stepped out with a stack of forms and a coffee carrier. She did not see me at first. When she did, she nodded once as if we were strangers, agreeing that hospitals were hard. She walked past me toward the nurses' station. I returned to the waiting area. Priya looked up from her laptop. Everything all right? She asked. I told her about the man in the cap and the security printout. I told her about the window and Ruiz. Her mouth went tight. Fear makes people clumsy, she said. It also makes them bold. Keep your box with you. Keep your phone in your pocket. If anyone asks to see your identification, ask to see theirs first. Andrew sat with his head in his hands. Marissa stared at the floor. I did not tell them about the printout. Not yet. Telling them would only throw kerosene on a room already hot. My phone buzzed with a new message from the unknown number. Do not walk alone. If you must leave, text me first. I typed back one word. Who? The reply came fast. A friend of someone you loved. That was all. Ruiz called 15 minutes later. I stepped toward the windows for reception. I am at your back door, he said. No sign of forced entry. The lock is clean. The latch shows no scrape. But there are prints in the small garden bed. 2 sets. One smaller, one a little larger. Both wiped at the mat. Mud still shows. He paused. Your neighbor says you keep your spare under the terracotta frog. The frog is back in place. The dirt on it looks freshly brushed. I closed my eyes. I kept the spare there because Claire liked the frog. Old habits sometimes survive good sense. Ruiz kept speaking in a calm voice that held a bit of gravel. We will dust the sill in the morning. For now, I suggest you move valuables to a safe or bring them with you. I will swing by twice before dawn. Leave a lamp on. He hesitated. I am sorry you are dealing with this tonight of all nights. Thank you, I said. He told me to call if anyone tried my door. I returned to the chairs and sat near Eli's window. Andrew stood beside me. He did not speak. He did not have to. We watched Eli breathe. The dark-haired woman crossed the lobby again. She set a folded pamphlet on the table near my elbow. On the white margin, someone had written 3 words in neat block letters. Cameras catch everything. I looked up. She was already gone. The pamphlet was a list of hospital resources. The handwriting was not hospital neat. It was careful in a different way. The way someone writes who is not used to leaving marks. I slipped the pamphlet into the tin box and held the box against my chest. I felt foolish for wanting to do that, and did it anyway. My phone buzzed once more. Ruiz again. One more thing, he said. The shoe prints are small. Maybe a man with narrow feet. The left shoe has a worn spot on the toe. I thought of the printout on Doyle's desk. Left shoe. White scuff. I told Ruiz I understood. I hung up and pressed my palm to the glass where Eli slept. I told the small body inside that all the doors would hold through the night. I told him that tomorrow would come. I told myself the same thing and waited for my words to feel true. Evelyn called again just after midnight. Her voice was low, like she was trying not to wake the street. I checked your porch one more time, she said. There was an envelope inside the mailbox. No return address. It is damp but sealed. Do you want me to bring it to the hospital? Please, I said. She hesitated. Or I can leave it on your kitchen table. Less eyes. Bring it here, I said. Stay in the light. I waited near the entrance until her hatchback slid under the canopy. She wore a scarf and held the envelope in a zip bag. The flap was wrinkled from rain. She pressed it into my hands. I sat in a corner and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet. A printed screenshot of my online banking page. Cropped to show balances. Last logins. And the small icon that meant alerts were disabled. Across the bottom, someone had written in black pen, "Change your password now. Enable text alerts. Freeze cards for purchases over 100. It could have been a threat. It could have been a warning. The letters were straight and even. No signature. I felt the old instinct to hand this to a guard and let the system decide. Then I pictured the man in the gray jacket asking about guarantors and checks. I pictured the damp windowsill. I pictured the terracotta frog with clean dirt under its lip. I walked to a quiet alcove and logged in. I changed the password to a phrase only Claire and I would know. Then changed it again. I turned on every alert the bank offered. I froze the debit card for anything over 100. I set a lock so that no new payees could be added without a live call that recorded my voice. I sent the confirmations to Priya's secure email. Then I did the same for the credit account and tightened the phone carrier's PIN. Priya found me 5 minutes later and read the printout the way a carpenter checks a level. Good, she said. Add notifications to a second number in case your phone is taken. Use my office line until morning. I keyed it in. If transactions appear, we will have a record within seconds, not hours. I stared at the screenshot again. The last login showed a time when I knew I was holding Eli's hand. I had been nowhere near a keyboard. Cold moved from my shoes to my throat. Someone else had tried the door. Maybe they did not get in. Maybe they did. The bank would tell me in the morning. Tonight, all I could do was narrow the locks and keep watch. I folded the screenshot and put it back in the envelope. I sealed the flap with tape from the desk, wrote the date on the front, and slid it into the tin box beside Claire's letter. Evidence belongs with promises. Claire used to say that when she kept receipts in a folder with a Blue Jay sticker, she said it like a joke. She meant it like a rule. The waiting room had thinned. A janitor moved a mop in slow rows. The television showed a chef lifting a shining pan, soundless in the hour before dawn. I carried the tin box to the glass wall of pediatrics and stood where I could see Eli's profile. The monitor lights reflected in the window like small stars. I pressed my fingers against the cold pane. Andrew stood when he saw me. Anything. he asked. I told him we were covered for the night and that I would be at the bank when it opened. He nodded. He did not ask what I had done with the accounts. Marissa stared at the floor tiles as if they might rearrange into a path out of fear. Priya closed her laptop and said she would nap in her car and return before the coordinator's call. I thanked her and watched her walk toward the doors with the posture of someone who has learned to be brave before breakfast. The unknown number buzzed. Good. The message read, "Now go sit by the child. They do not know how loud the quiet is by the glass." I looked over my shoulder. No one stood close. I pocketed the phone and pushed my chair to the window. Eli's hand twitched in his sleep. I slid my palm flat to the glass, matching his size with mine. I counted his breaths until my own slowed to the same rhythm. I whispered the prayer Claire taught me when Andrew had croup, and we sat in a bathroom full of steam at 2 a.m. Help us be steady. Help us be kind. Help us see. I told Eli a story about the first canoe I built. The ribs wanted to twist, but yielded to patience. A boat is a promise. If you rush it, it can carry no one. If you take your time, it can hold a family. His mouth moved in a small dream. I decided no one would turn our story into a contract with fine print. Not while I could still stand at this glass and count. The night cooled. Somewhere a nurse laughed. I felt Claire's letter in my pocket like a small warm stone. I set the tin box on my lap and rested both hands over it. I would choose right. I would choose slow. I would pay what must be paid without handing away the key to every door we had made together. I leaned close to the glass and spoke so low only I could hear it. Hold on. Little one. I am here. Your mother is here. Your father is here. Your grandmother's letters are here. We will make a harbor for you. We will keep you dry. We will wait through the night as long as it takes. At sunrise, the windows turned the waiting room pale gold. I rose from the chair. Joints stiff. Tin box under my arm. The first bank branch near the hospital opened at 8. I walked the 2 blocks through drizzle and bought a cashier's check in Eli's name and mine together. The teller stamped it with a red seal. The paper looked simple, but it carried more weight than any contract Marissa had tried to push under my hand. Back at the hospital, I went straight to the finance office. The clerk behind the glass counted the numbers twice and clipped the receipt to a carbon copy. She stamped it, tore it off, and handed it to me. I slid it into the box and felt a knot loosen. No one else needed to touch my accounts. The hospital had what it needed. The procedure could not be delayed for money. When I returned to the ward, Andrew was waiting by the elevators. His face looked younger in the morning light, like the storm had taken years from him. "Did you cover it?" he asked. I held out the receipt. He let out a sound that was half sigh and half sob. "Thank you." Marissa lingered near the window, silent. She looked at me once but said nothing. I walked past her without breaking stride. I had no energy left for her silence. Priya met me in the corridor. She had filed the protective measure at dawn. A judge signed the temporary order within the hour. She handed me the stamped copy. It said no guardianship or financial authority could be transferred without a hearing. I read it 3 times. My hands steadied on the paper. We stepped into the hall together. A nurse told us the surgical coordinator would call families within the next hour. The room felt lighter, though tension still hung in corners. Andrew leaned against the wall, eyes closed. I saw how tired he was, how thin. Then my phone buzzed. Ruiz. He sounded calm but firm. "Daniel, I need you home. We just checked your back door again. This time it was locked from inside. Whoever used that key is not gone long. Nothing missing except a small device from your desk." "What device?" I asked. He paused. "A USB stick." Ruiz described it. "Silver, with a plastic cap. Do you know it?" My legs went weak. Yes, I whispered. It held scans of Claire's letters. Drafts she wrote when she was too tired to sign. And a copy of a will she never finished. Ruiz said. We dusted for prints. Too smudged. But your neighbor said she saw Marissa on your porch last week. Carrying soup. She had a key. Did you give her one? No. Evelyn did. I said quietly. She thought she was helping. Ruiz exhaled. That explains the lock. Whoever was with her had time to look. I pressed the wall for balance. In my mind, I saw the box on my lap. Safe. But the digital shadow of its contents was gone. Whoever had that stick now knew more than they should. Priya touched my elbow. We need to review what that draft contained. Did Claire name anyone specific? Yes, I said. She wrote that the insurance was for Eli alone. She wrote that it should never be folded into family accounts. She wrote my name as guardian. She had not signed it. Priya nodded. Then the theft is leverage. Not law. They may try to waive it as proof of intent. We will be ready. I thought of Marissa's eyes darting. The papers. She slid toward me. The way she pushed harder when I resisted. Anger rose in me like fire. But grief doused it. Eli lay behind glass. Still fighting. I could not waste my strength on rage. The surgical coordinator arrived. She called Eli's name. Andrew straightened as if someone pulled him upright by strings. Marissa hurried to his side. I stood back. The tin box pressed to my chest. The coordinator confirmed the schedule. Tomorrow morning. First slot. No more waiting. Andrew broke down in the hallway. Head in his hands. Marissa touched his back. I stayed where I was. Ruiz texted once more. We will keep watch on your street tonight. Locks will be changed by afternoon. Keep evidence with you. I slipped the phone away. The day felt like a line drawn in chalk. On one side was fear. On the other side was the promise of a morning where Eli could wake stronger. I prayed that when the line washed away, family would remain. Officer Ruiz drove me across town in a quiet patrol car. The wipers beat a steady rhythm. My street looked smaller than usual, as if the night had pressed it inward. He parked under the maple. We walked up my steps together. The porch light had been left on by Evelyn like a prayer. Inside, nothing shouted. Chairs sat at the angles I knew. The rug lay straight. The air smelled like lemons from the cleaner I use on Saturdays. Ruiz clicked on his small flashlight and nodded toward the hall. Study first, he said. The door to the study opened with its usual sigh. My desk drawers were mostly closed, but not fully. A pencil had been returned to the tray point down. That was not my habit. Ruiz watched my face without speaking. I slid open the second drawer. Receipts. Old taxes. The slot where I kept a silver USB wrapped in a rubber band was empty. Only that, I said. Only the stick. What was on it? He asked. Scans of Claire's letters. Notes she wrote when she was too tired to hold a pen. A draft of a will she never signed. It was the map to a story no one else should tell for us. Ruiz wrote in his notebook. He asked about valuables. Nothing else is missing. I said, the watch I never wear is still in the dish. The envelopes are still in the tin box because I took them with me. He nodded. Someone was searching for information. Not things. A knock at the front door. Evelyn stepped in with her scarf and her eyes sorry. I did something I should have told you sooner. She said, last week when you went to urgent care for dizziness, Marissa came by with soup. She did not want to wake you. I let her in with the spare key so she could leave it on the stove. She brought the bowl back clean the next day. I thought I was helping. I am so sorry. Ruiz stayed gentle. Did she come alone? He asked. Evelyn hesitated. The first time, yes. The second time, there was a man with her. Baseball cap. Quiet. He stayed by the door with a laptop bag. I thought he was a cousin. They did not stay long. We have a door camera, I said. Ruiz asked for the app. I handed him my phone. He scrolled and then angled the screen. There was Marissa at dusk 4 nights ago, balancing a paper bag. A minute later, a man in a cap came into frame. He did not look up. He held the strap of his laptop case tight. His left shoe showed a white scuff at the toe. Ruiz saved the footage to his email and to mine. He asked if there were other angles. Only the porch, I said. He turned to Evelyn. Please do not share what you saw with anyone else. She nodded. I set the tin box on the desk and tried to breathe evenly. The sight of Marissa on my porch without me there felt like a window left open in a storm. Ruiz spoke low. I cannot tell you intent, he said. I can tell you the man knows cameras. He kept his face away. He wiped touch points. Ruiz asked if I had a safe. I said no. He said he would arrange for a locksmith to change both locks by afternoon and fit a stronger deadbolt. He told me to move anything irreplaceable into the trunk of my car. He gave me a small bag for the USB cap left in the drawer. We will print this for prints in the morning, he said. For tonight, keep the box with you. Do not leave it here. Do not leave it in the truck. I put the letters back into the tin and slid the lid shut. Ruiz walked the perimeter once more and checked windows with his palm. He paused at the study window and pointed at the sill. The damp line is still visible. Someone opened this and then changed their mind. We stood in the hall under the family photos Claire hung in a row. Evelyn looked at the picture of my son in his cap and gown and made a small sound. She loved the way you two stood shoulder to shoulder, she said. I said I had to get back to the hospital. Ruiz walked us out and locked the knob with a temporary bar from his bag. I will patrol your block tonight between calls, he said. Text me if you see the man with the cap. Evelyn squeezed my arm. I can sit with the house if you want, she offered. I shook my head. Thank you. Stay in your lights. We drove back in silence. At a red light, Ruiz spoke without looking at me. Sometimes the person who scares us least is the one who opens the door for the person who scares us most. It is not the end of the story. It felt like the end when I walked through the hospital doors again. Then I saw my grandson in the glass. I remembered there is always another chapter if you make one. I put the tin box on my knees and promised Claire I would keep our papers close and that this time I would not blink. Priya called as I reached the waiting room. She asked if I had the footage. I sent it to her. She said she would add it to the file and request a note in the chart, limiting who could ask about billing. I thanked her. I thanked Ruiz. I thanked Evelyn by text. Then I sat by the glass and watched my grandson breathe until the world made sense again. Even if only a little, the tin box sat warm in my hands. The letters inside were paper. They were also a kind of spine. Mine straightened when I held them. The unknown number buzzed while I watched Eli sleep. Meet me at the cafe across the street. 10 minutes. Come alone. I showed the text to Priya. She told me to sit near the front window and keep my phone on the table. I nodded and crossed the street with the tin box under my arm. The cafe smelled like toast and dark roast. A bell rang when I opened the door. A young man stood from a corner booth and raised a hand. He wore navy scrubs and a jacket with a name tag clipped to the pocket. Aaron. He looked like he had not slept in a week. Thank you for coming, he said. His voice was quiet. I sat across from him. I placed the box between us and kept one hand on it. You sent the messages, I said. He nodded. I knew your wife, he said. I worked nights in oncology during her last months. She volunteered before she got sick. She brought coffee to the families who slept on the floor. She learned all our names. She would sit with patients who had no one. He swallowed. She asked me to keep something safe for you. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a blue envelope with my name written in a careful hand. It was Claire's handwriting. My chest broke open. Erin slid it across the table. She gave it to me the night before she went home for the last time. She said I might see you again one day. She said if anyone ever pushed you to sign away control, I should find you and tell you to wait. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single page in Claire's voice. Daniel, if the room turns fast and the paper looks simple, stop. Ask for help that is yours alone. The policy is for Eli. Keep the trust separate. Guard it until he can stand. Do not trade it for a signature made in fear. I touched the lines with the tips of my fingers. My throat closed. I could not speak for a long moment. Erin waited. When I looked up, he spoke again. I saw your name yesterday in a request to billing. Your daughter-in-law asked for expanded authorization that would attach to you and to the guarantor. That is not normal at this step. It can be honest. It can also be wrong. I checked the system logs. I saw your address flagged. That is not standard either. He glanced toward the door. I do not have the authority to pull more. I have enough to know you needed time. You sent the first text. I said, yes. From a prepaid phone. I did not want the hospital server to trace it to a staff device. I asked a coworker to bring you coffee and leave a note. She is the woman you saw. I was still on the floor. She did not read the message. She only delivered it. I remembered the folded pamphlet and the 3 words in block letters. Cameras catch everything. I set the pamphlet on the table. Was this your writing? I asked. He shook his head. I wrote the first 2 messages. The coffee was from a friend. She is kind. She has seen families break in this hallway. She wanted you to know the cameras, see what people think is hidden. Why risk this? I asked. You could lose your job. You could be disciplined. He looked down at his hands. Claire once sat with my father while I ran home to shower. He smiled at a woman he did not know and called her the sister he wished he had. She kept him company for an hour that would have felt like a year. I owed her more than a thank you. Also, I have watched paperwork steal the dignity of people who were already too tired to stand. I am tired of watching. He reached into his pocket again and handed me a small thumb drive. Not the one from my desk. This is a copy of the documents I kept for her. Letters she read to me when the machines were quiet. A draft she dictated one night when her hands shook. She asked me to save it until she believed you were ready. I kept it locked in my locker. I never shared it. I made one more copy when I saw your name in the system. He pushed the drive toward me. I do not keep one for myself. If you want me to testify about where this came from, I will. I held the drive. It felt light and heavy at once. Priya will want to catalog this, I said. He nodded. She is good. I saw her name on a case last spring. She fights clean. I told him about the man with the cap and the white scuff on his shoe. I told him about the damp window and the missing stick. Erin listened with his jaw tight. He said he had seen the man in the lobby near admissions. He had asked 2 guards where guarantors pay late fees. He had stood too close to the printer. He had kept his eyes down every time a camera watched the hall. I wanted to ask if he thought Marissa knew what the man was doing. I closed my mouth. I did not want to hear speculation dressed as truth. Erin read my face. I cannot tell you what is in a heart, he said. I can tell you what I saw. Pressure. Urgency. Questions that did not fit the hour. He asked if I had someone to walk me back. I told him Priya was waiting. I asked if he feared trouble for meeting me. He smiled without humor. Trouble already sits with me. I can live with a statement of fact. I cannot live with silence when a promise is at risk. We stood to leave. He held the door. The bell rang again. Rain had cleaned the air. For a second, the hospital looked like a ship waiting to sail. He pressed his card into my hand. It had only his first name and a personal number. "Call if you need me," he said. "If anyone wants me to say what Claire asked, I will stand in a room and say it." I crossed the street with the envelope in my jacket and the drive in my palm. Priya met me at the doors. I gave her both without speaking. She read Claire's letter and closed her eyes for a moment, like someone saying grace. Then she slid the page into a clear sleeve and placed the drive in a small pouch. "Chain of custody starts now," she said. We walked back to the glass. Eli slept on his side. Andrew sat with his head tipped back, mouth open, as if sleep had hit him like a wave. Marissa held a paper cup and stared at the floor. I looked at them both and felt anger and love move through me at the same time. I set the tin box on my knees and rested a hand on the lid. I decided that truth would come first. After that, we could see who wanted to stay. The call came just after noon. The coordinator smiled. The repair held. "Eli is stable and will wake soon." The room opened. Andrew pressed his forehead to the glass and sobbed. Marissa covered her face. I felt my knees soften. I put one hand on the tin box and breathed. They let us in 2 at a time. I took the last turn. Eli's skin was warm. His chest rose in gentle waves. A nurse said he liked a firm hand on his shoulder. I placed my palm there and felt the small strength under my fingers. "Thank you," I said. To no one and to everyone. We waited on the roof while Eli rested. The city smelled, rinsed after rain. Andrew watched the cranes and kept quiet until the silence hurt. When he spoke, his voice was thin. "I need to tell you the truth," he said. "Liam is not the only weight." Marissa asked someone for help and chose a man who lies for a living. He promised to sweep the pier loans if she gave him a look at our accounts and a way into your house. She thought it would buy us a month. She used the spare key Evelyn had given her. I kept my eyes on the horizon. "Do you love her?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "She wants to do right. She has been drowning and grabbed the wrong rope. Love does not excuse harm," I said. "It explains how harm found a door." He nodded and wiped his face. We met Priya in the family room. I asked for a structure that would protect Eli and give us a way back to trust. Priya drafted while we watched her pen move. "The trust for Eli stands alone. I remain guardian. Distributions need 2 signatures and a short note from a doctor or teacher or social worker who confirms the need. Andrew and Marissa get view-only access until they finish financial counseling. After that, they gain limited access with alerts to them and to me. Any change requires a hearing." Andrew read every line. His shoulders lowered. Marissa cried. She said she was sorry for the house. I told her we would face it with all doors open. She nodded. We signed near dusk. The notary stamped the pages. Priya put each set in a sleeve and handed them out. She asked about family counseling. I said yes. Andrew said yes. Marissa whispered yes. When the sun slid behind the towers, we went back to Eli. His eyelids fluttered. He gripped Andrew's finger. Marissa leaned close and whispered a promise I could not hear. I pressed my hand to the glass and spoke inside my chest. "Thank you, Claire. We are learning to stand." That night I drove home. Ruiz had changed the locks. The house smelled like lemon oil and cold air. I set the tin box on the kitchen table. I took out the blue envelope and read Claire's letter aloud. "Guard the child. Guard the gift. Forgive when the asking is honest and the repair real. Be brave even when your hands shake." I called Evelyn and asked her to come for soup. I called Andrew and told him to stop by if he could. "Bring Marissa when you are ready," I said. "The key will be here when our family belongs to it again." They came by 9. We ate at the small table. We spoke about Eli's breath and the way his fingers curled. Then I set the spare key on the table. I said what had lived in my chest since the night at the window. I have been afraid too. Afraid of losing what we built. afraid of watching you learn the hard way. I am done being ruled by fear. I will stand with you while you change." Andrew reached out. He took the key and did not hide it. He set it in the center where we all could see it. Marissa met my eyes and said she would take the class and meet the counselor and answer questions without flinching. The house felt true. I closed the tin box and slid it back to the shelf. The letters had done their work for the night. I turned off the kitchen light. The rain had stopped. The street looked like a clean page. We would write it with care. When Eli is old enough, he will find not only the words we signed, but the people who stood by them